is 1795, and Paris is in chaos. The French Revolution has devoured its own, culminating in the executions of King Louis XVI and Queen Marie Antoinette. But there is one final, terrible loose end. The boy, the Dauphin, the uncrowned Louis XVII. He had been left to rot in a dark, stinking cell in complete isolation for months. On June 8th, the uncrowned Louis XVII finally succumbed. Officially, the cause was tuberculosis and neglect. The next day, 4 physicians were summoned to perform the official autopsy. Among them was a royalist sympathizer named Dr. Philippe-Jean Pelletan. Pelletan saw the emaciated corpse, the sores, and the signs of cruelty. He did not trust the official record, especially when the body was immediately marked for a swift burial in a common grave. This lack of proof, the vanishing of the boy's remains, would be the spark for 2 centuries of conspiracy. But Pelletan was an opportunist. As his colleagues prepared to close up the body, Pelletan performed his own, private, illegal act of defiance. He reached inside the dead prince's chest, and he stole and preserved his heart. This single illegally preserved organ did not start the mystery, but it became the missing key to ending it. Because while the hasty burial launched 2 centuries of fake kings and deception, that stolen heart held the DNA evidence that would finally expose the truth. This is the story of Louis XVII, the Lost Prince. Louis-Charles de France was born into unimaginable luxury in 1785. He was the younger son, but by the age of 4, the death of his elder brother made him the Dauphin, heir to the most powerful throne in Europe. But his childhood coincided with the French Revolution, and by 1792, he, his parents, and his sister were locked away in the fortress of the Temple prison. The revolutionaries were determined to extinguish the very idea of monarchy, and their cruelty was systematic. They executed his father, Louis XVI, in January 1793, and his mother, Marie Antoinette, in October. Louis-Charles had been separated and placed under the care of Antoine Simon, a revolutionary cobbler. Simon was tasked not just with guarding the boy, but with destroying him. He was forced to curse his parents, taught revolutionary songs, and subjected to psychological torture. When Simon was removed, the torment only deepened. The boy was locked in his cell, a windowless, dark, foul-smelling room. The door was bolted, the guard slots rarely used. For over 6 months, Louis-Charles was left in complete isolation. He stopped speaking. He stopped moving. By 1795, the revolutionary government had a problem. The boy was still alive and still a symbol. If he lived, royalist plots would never cease. On June 8, 1795, the official report was delivered. Louis XVII was dead. The cause was given as scrofula, or tuberculosis, caused by neglect. But the death was too convenient. The body was hastily buried in a mass grave, and despite the autopsy, doubts immediately flared across Europe. Had the prince truly died, or was this the moment of the swap? The moment the news of the prince's death reached the courts of Europe, the rumor mill ignited. Because the body was swiftly and secretly interred in a common grave, there was no physical proof, no royal witness, and no closure. For royalists, this was the ultimate proof of a substitution. The boy in the grave was merely a stand-in, and the real Louis XVII had been smuggled to safety. Over the next century, dozens of men emerged across Europe, claiming to be the lost prince. Each brought a dramatic story or a claimed secret mark to prove their identity. The most famous was a German clockmaker named Karl Wilhelm Naundorf. He had an uncanny knowledge of the court and possessed intimate family secrets. His followers were absolutely convinced, and his claim was so potent that his descendants continued to fight for official recognition for over a century. These claims were not just historical annoyances. They created ongoing schisms among royalist supporters, forcing the exiled Bourbon family to defend their lineage in costly, decades-long legal battles. The price of disproving these fake kings drained the funds and political energy of the legitimate royal line for generations. But while the world was distracted by imposters, the true evidence remained hidden. Remember Dr. Pelletan, the physician who stole the boy's heart? This small, preserved human organ, passed secretly through 200 years of custody, was the only hope of finally answering the question: was the boy who died in the prison the real Louis XVII? For 200 years, it was history's greatest unsolved cold case. But by the late 1990s, forensic science provided a new tool: mitochondrial DNA analysis. Mitochondrial DNA, or mtDNA, is distinct from regular DNA. It is inherited exclusively down the maternal line, from mother to child. If scientists could extract mtDNA from the preserved heart, they could compare it against the maternal line of Louis XVII's mother, Marie Antoinette. In 2000, two independent laboratories in Germany and Belgium, led by geneticists like Professor Jean-Jacques Cassimon, took samples from the shriveled heart. They had to work with extremely small, degraded amounts of DNA. For the comparison, they used samples taken from Marie Antoinette's hair and from the remains of her two sisters, confirming the specific, unique genetic sequence of the Habsburg maternal line. The results were announced in 2001 and were utterly conclusive. The mitochondrial DNA sequence from the preserved heart was a perfect 100% match to the mtDNA sequence of Marie Antoinette's family. The specific genetic signature was so rare that the probability of the heart belonging to a randomly selected European was beyond statistical measure. The science had spoken. After 2 centuries of conspiracy, false kings, and doubt, the mystery was solved. The boy who died alone in the dark cell of the Temple prison in 1795 was unequivocally the son of Marie Antoinette. The lost prince was never lost. He was simply neglected, tortured, and killed by the revolution. Every claimant, every story of escape, from Naundorf to the last, was proven false. The heart, stolen in an act of desperation by a secret royalist, became the piece of evidence that brought the truth to light. It is a final, tragic confirmation of a life extinguished not by an executioner's blade, but the revolutionary government's deliberate cruelty. The heart settled the fate of the true prince, but the DNA settled the fate of the imposter. Every claimant, every story of escape, from Naundorf to the last, was proven false. The DNA results provided a tragic irony. They not only confirmed the death of the true prince, but they finally and scientifically defeated the most persistent claimant, Karl Wilhelm Naundorf. His family had fought for generations to prove his royal lineage, going so far as to bury him with a grand inscription declaring him the rightful Louis XVII. Yet subsequent DNA analysis of Naundorf's own remains and those of his descendants proved they did not share the Bourbon maternal line. Thus, the very science that confirmed the boy in the prison was Marie Antoinette's son simultaneously proved that Naundorf was an imposter. The boy, who was supposed to be king, received no burial plot, only a common grave. The imposter received a royal burial plot, but no DNA confirmation. The heart, stolen in an act of desperation by a secret royalist, became the piece of evidence that brought the truth to light. It is a final, tragic confirmation of a life extinguished not by an executioner's blade, but by the revolutionary government's deliberate cruelty. The little heart, now housed in the Basilica of Saint-Denis alongside the graves of the French kings, serves as a testament to two things: the profound tragedy of a child caught in a political firestorm, and the incredible, persistent power of science to reach back across the centuries and correct the historical record. The reign of Louis XVII lasted only in title. His story is one of ultimate, heartbreaking neglect. But thanks to one audacious act of theft and one conclusive DNA test, we finally know his fate. If you appreciate these investigations into history's cold cases, subscribe and join us for the next one.